Superman may be launching a new universe, but it's anything but an origin story. From Green Lantern lore to the threat of dimensional imps, the movie is full of lines referencing the robust world of the DCU. Warning, spoilers ahead. There's a curious line in the beginning of Superman where it's noted how there's no longer any kryptonite left on Earth. Since this is Superman's main weakness, Lex Luthor has to get creative to weaken the Man of Steel. His solution? He has Metamorpho incarcerated so that he can transform part of his body into kryptonite to weaken Superman. It's definitely a creative workaround, but it does call into question what happened to all of the kryptonite and what it means for the future of Superman movies. The opening preamble states how Superman has been saving people for 3 years at this point. More than likely, during that time, someone figured out kryptonite hurt Superman, which means there would be an incentive for him to get rid of it all. Perhaps he formulated some plan to throw it all into space so that no future villains could use it against him. Assuming Superman gets a proper sequel, what would villains use against him? Even Lex Luthor still needed it to stand a chance against him. Perhaps this will entice James Gunn, or whoever directs the next Superman film, to use one of Superman's strongest villains we haven't seen in a live-action film yet. Brainiac is more than a match for Superman without glowing green rocks, so maybe it's his time to shine.
Good luck with that.
During Superman's interview with Lois Lane, he mentions how he doesn't have time for selfies and isn't on social media all that much to begin with. He then breaks down and mentions how he peeks every now and then, meaning he's aware of the vitriol lobbied against him by folks using #SuperSpy. It shows that even the last son of Krypton isn't immune to internet trolls, and it also sort of feels like a meta-commentary on James Gunn's own relationship with social media. It's safe to say Gunn is chronically online, and it's not just to promote whatever project he has in the works. He's constantly getting into beefs with the people or setting the record straight concerning rumors. As the new co-head of DC Studios, he has an entire brand to protect now, so he's not afraid to set the record straight on things like Matt Reeves' sequel to The Batman when rumors get out of hand. Maybe Superman's statement reflects how Gunn himself would like to treat social media. It's something we all like to think we can ignore, but ultimately, we can't help but see what complete strangers online are saying about us. At the end of the movie, Superman says he's human like anyone else because he makes mistakes, but really, he's human because he cares about what a bunch of nobodies are saying about him online and in person.
I think it's pretty obvious the goal was kicking Superman's ass.
Or he didn't completely kick Superman's ass.
There's a point in the movie where Lex Luthor unscrambles the damaged component of the message Jor-El and Lara Lorvan sent with their son. While the first half sounded optimistic, with them telling Kal-El to be a protector of Earth, the second portion suggests they wanted him to rule over humanity. Part of this entails building a harem of women so that he could spread his seed, and it's the point a lot of people seem focused on following the revelation. It feels like at first Lex tampered with the audio to change their message, but Lex says he didn't do anything, and there's no reason not to believe him at that moment. Now, we wouldn't recommend Googling Superman harem because you'll probably come across some stuff that's, strange. But it's fascinating in the context of how Kryptonian reproduction has been portrayed in previous media, like Man of Steel and Krypton that used Genesis chambers.
Strange to think our ancestors used to carry children in their wombs. Just seems so inefficient.
These allowed for reproduction without the need for physical interaction. Jor-El and Lara conceived Kal-El naturally, going against this trend. We don't know much about this film's version of Jor-El and Lara because we only see their hologram versions, but it seems they wanted Kal-El to continue this trend rather than pack a Genesis chamber in the spaceship with him to use later. The first image of David Corn Sweat's Superman received mixed reactions from fans, mostly because of the outfit itself. But there was also chatter about a giant orb outside of the window seemingly wreaking havoc on Metropolis, while Clark Kent appears preoccupied with something else. This moment is actually in the finished film, with Clark referring to the entity as a dimensional imp, and the reason he's not concerned is that the Justice Gang, consisting of Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific, are handling it. The use of the word imp is interesting in this context, since imps are technically seen as humanoid beings in DC Comics. They're effectively magical entities that can manipulate the fabric of reality, with some notable imps including Mr. Mixius Spitlick, one of the few comic book characters more powerful than Superman and Batmite.
I'm from the 5th dimension. Beings from my realm have powers that you 3Ds take for magical.
James Gunn has been very open about his fondness toward Batmite, and in an interview with Screen Rant, everybody knows I love Batmite. Batmite's like my man. He's creepy creepy as hell. I think I've got to do something with Batmite someday. Could the imp reference be a nod to Batmite's eventual introduction into the new DC cinematic universe? It's possible, but again, the orb seems to be a different thing entirely than Batmite or Mr. Mixius Spitlick. Perhaps it's an imp from a different dimension to the imps comic book fans are more familiar with. Or maybe Gunn just wanted to mess with the audience a bit. After Superman gets captured by Lex, Lois goes to the Justice Gang for help. During this interaction, Guy Gardner, who's his usual jerky self, asks Lois if she knows about Superman's hypno glasses.
How do they work? They make his face look different in your brain when he wears them so that you don't know who he is?
Yes, I know this.
So you know he's Clark Kent.
Yep, this convo points to an obscure bit of Superman lore where Clark's glasses make him look substantially different from that of Superman. James Gunn revealed to Comic Book that he always had trouble reconciling that no one could recognize Clark and Kal-El are the same person. He said, "It's kind of been forgotten, but hypno glasses are from the comics. I was sitting with Tom King, the comic book writer, and I was like, you know, the thing that I just don't really know how to reconcile in myself is the glasses, because the glasses always bothered me as a kid. They bothered me because I just don't have that much suspension of disbelief to believe that." King then revealed the DC deep cut that Superman technically hypnotizes people, and it's now canon to the DCU. The question remains as to whether hypno glasses are worth bringing up. To his credit, Corran Sweat does a great job changing his mannerisms as Clark Kent compared to Superman, and there is a slight physical difference, especially in terms of the hairstyle. But with all the other weirdness in Superman, hypno glasses are just another thing for hardcore comic book fans to enjoy. Guy Gardner probably gets the most lines during Lois's trip to the Hall of Justice, for better or worse. It's all in line with him being the bad boy Green Lantern and not being as noble as the likes of Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, unlike Hawkgirl and Mr. Terrific, whose backstories don't really come up. Guy at least mentions that he took a vow and references the Green Lantern Corps. Like any Green Lantern, he would have needed to give the iconic oath, which is, "In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light." Guy mentions a few other things during this meeting that don't really seem to be part of that oath, which probably indicates how he doesn't take his vow all that seriously. This could make him an intriguing, dramatic foil compared to other Green Lanterns. The HBO Green Lantern series will focus on Hal and John, that's been described as in the vein of True Detective. That definitely makes it sound pretty serious, and like it has a potential for some especially saucy interactions.
You see that? Your attitude.
Whatever the case, it's possible those two won't want anything to do with the guy if he's so cavalier about his oath. Eventually, Lois and the team at the Daily Planet uncover Lex's ultimate plan. He's the one funding Boravia's invasion of Jahanpur so that he can receive a portion of the country for himself to rule over as king. It's perfectly in line with the usual egomaniacal machinations of the supervillain, and Lex becoming a ruler has happened a couple of times before in the comics. The story most will be familiar with is when Lex Luthor ran for president of the United States, beginning in Superman Lex 2000 issue 1. Luthor runs a successful campaign for the 2000 presidential election, but some things never change. He still has a vendetta against Superman, with his presidency unraveling as he continues trying to kill the Man of Steel. This storyline was also somewhat adapted in the Justice League Unlimited animated series, where Lex runs for president to try to take down the Justice League.
Even this wasn't enough for you, was it? You had to have it all. Now we're on the brink of a war that could destroy the whole planet.
Lex even becomes something of a king in a storyline starting with Superman issue 164. Lex uses his technology to improve the planet's irrigation systems. The people treated him like a king, and even renames the world Lexor in his honor. In many stories, Lex isn't content with merely being a successful businessman. He wants to rule over others, and that's probably why he hates Superman so much. If he had that kind of power, he'd use it to subjugate humanity, so that's what he assumes Superman would want to do too. Eventually, Superman learns that the Hammer of Boravia and Ultraman are one and the same, each one under the control of Lex Luthor. When the character loses his mask, it's revealed he's a clone of Superman, looking exactly like him, although Lex states that he's even stupider than you, in reference to Clark. Superman has had quite a few clones over the years, but this new one seems to be its own different thing. First, there's the name Ultraman itself, which is in reference to Ultraman from the comics, a version of Superman from another dimension who's the leader of the crime syndicate, and evil iteration of the Justice League. Bizarro is another Superman copy, hailing from Bizarro World, while using backwards speak that could come across as dumb, as Lex would probably put it. Even these aren't technically clones, as they come from other worlds, so Superboy might be the closest to what Ultraman is in Superman. Superboy actually is a clone derived from Superman's DNA, which has been combined with Lex Luthor's own genetic material. Superboy's more of a good guy though, so even he's not the best fit. Other clones include Cyborg Superman and Nuclear Man, the latter of which was introduced in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Welcome home, Nuclear Man. Your father's happy to see you.
This version of Ultraman seems to be a new creation, taking from bits and pieces of other Superman media, but he gets sent through a black hole where the films end. If that portal sends him to another dimension, maybe he could become warped and villainous in his own right. Seeing as Lex referred to him as stupid, he could come back as Bizarro in a future DC project as a twisted, backwards iteration of Superman. Superman naturally has a happy ending, unless you're working on behalf of the United States government within the film's universe. Superman stops Lex's plan, negating the rift. He also gets Hawkgirl, Guy Gardner, and Metamorpho to resolve the conflict unfolding between Boravia and Jahanpur, since he has his hands full elsewhere. It's a change in pace for the Justice Gang, as they're more corporate-sponsored heroes, so it seems like they went rogue to do what was right. This leads to a government official to declare now they're the ones making the rules. This definitely seems to set up the fact that the Justice League is a real possibility down the road. The film makes it clear that heroic metahumans typically operate under some kind of guidance, which makes Superman a thorn in official sides. He doesn't obey a corporation or a government. He does what he believes to be right.
Did you consult with the president?
No.
And it seems that attitude has influenced other metahumans to forge their own paths. The government being scared of the Justice League is a recurring plot point in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon, leading to the development of Project Cadmus to counter metahuman activity. Superman deals heavily in political minutiae, and with more heroes doing what they want, there's a good chance future DC movies will continue having the US government front and center, dealing with these all-powerful beings shaping the world how they want. Superman ends with a tease of DC Studios' next film, Supergirl. Kara Zor-El unexpectedly arrives in the Fortress of Solitude to pick up her dog, Krypto. In so doing, we learn that her being off-world is the real reason Superman has had to foster the pup. She's back now and ready to take Krypto to her next outing, with Kal-El telling his robots she likes to go party on other planets, specifically ones with red suns that dampen her Kryptonian durability so that she can actually get drunk. Superman's exposition sets up what will likely be the inciting incident of the upcoming Supergirl movie, which will draw influence from the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comic. That story begins with Supergirl getting drunk on another world when she's approached by Ruthie to help her track down Krem of the Yellow Hills to avenge her father's death. James Gunn has already promised a much harsher Supergirl for her upcoming film, and that's readily apparent from her quick cameo. This is a Supergirl who's rougher around the edges, and it's already exciting to see that the new DCU is jumping right into the more cosmic side of this franchise so soon.